In order for you to hit the golf ball as far and as good as you possibly can, you absolutely need good balance. Let's talk about how to achieve that today and what to work on. Let's get to work. In any sport that we play, we need good balance, yet why aren't players practicing their balance? Do you practice your balance? And in today's video, I'm gonna help you get better at your balance, and I'm gonna give you 3 concepts and drills. Oh, and the third one, it's a good one, so stick around. So you actually have something now to work on when you go to the range and at home. My name is TJ Valentine. I am a 25-year PGA teaching professional. Been teaching this game a long time, given tens of thousands of lessons, been ranked by Golf Digest, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Just a little credibility check. It's not bad to have one of those once in a while. If you are new here and you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I want to be your guide to better golf. Let's go get some balance. The first thing we're going to talk about today is your setup. You need to have good balance at your address position. If you do not have good balance at your address position, you are not going to have good dynamic balance as that club moves through space and time with all of those forces and torques and speed. It's just not going to happen. You need to be off to a good start. How many of you out there work on your balance at address position, your posture, your setup? Probably not a lot of you. I want you to start working on this. So how do we get into a good balanced position? Now, ultimately, when we get over that golf ball, we want to have good toe to heel balance, not just right leg and lead leg or trail leg and lead leg. So as you can see on that pressure mat, I'm too much on my toes, I'm too much on my heels, I'm right in between. We want to be as balanced as we possibly can. Now, how do we get into this position? Poor posture can equal poor balance. Poor setup can equal poor balance. So we have to be good at that stuff in order to achieve that toe, heel, trail, and lead leg balance all around. Now, in order for me to get into that position, I want my arms hanging underneath my shoulders. So a good visual is, in my address position, if I can draw a line from my shoulder down through my hands, I'm in a good neutral balance position. If I can take my armpit and draw a line down to my toes, I'm in a good balance position. If I'm reaching too much, I'm gonna go on my toes. If I'm too close, I'm gonna go on my heels. I'm gonna have to do something to counterbalance that. So if I'm in a good setup position where my arms are hanging from my shoulders, you can do a good little test by letting that trail arm just swing off. So if I get in here, I let my trail arm just naturally hang. If it can swing right back onto that club, you're in a good position. If you're too far out, so if I'm too away and I let that happen, the hand's gonna swing in because it's seeking that position underneath my shoulder. My hand is always seeking that position. If I start out here, it wants to come back to that position. If I start too close, it wants to go back to that position, and that's gonna affect your balance. So we have to have that piece of the puzzle good. We have to have good bend from our hip sockets here. If I don't have good bend from my hip sockets and my tail is not slightly outside of my back foot, I'm gonna have poor balance. My setup is extremely important to get into a position where I can essentially have someone come up to me and push me from all different angles and I'm not falling over. That's a check that I do all the time in my lessons with a player. When they're in their setup position, I'll walk up to them and push them in different directions. And if they can stay stable, I know they're in a decent address position. Then I'll put them on the pressure mat and see. So as you can see on your screen, my address position, again, is very balanced, toe to heel balanced. My setup, my posture, everything is in a good position to start. I am in a balanced position right away, so I can now take this golf club back without having to counterbalance where I was at address. Balance equals good positions. And I know not everybody has access to a pressure mat to literally track their balance, say when they're at home or on the range, but there is a consumer version, and they're insoles, and they have the pressure and force sensors inside the insoles, and they literally Bluetooth to your phone. The app is great. As you can see right now on the screen, it measures your balance, trail leg, lead leg. It measures the pressure just like we were doing. It also measures some vertical forces as well. So I do recommend this to my students. A bunch of my students have them. They love them. I'll put a link down below if you are interested, because I know a lot of people do ask me about this stuff, and it's just an idea for you guys. Now, once you've worked on your setup and you've established a good balanced setup, now it's time to move the club off of the golf ball. I'm not going to get into certain specific positions of the golf swing right now. Balance has a beautiful way of taking care of some of the rough edges of people's mechanical issues. Talked about this in other videos. For example, a club that comes too far inside, a lot of times that's tied into the address setup balance position. But I do want to talk about one thing that does affect balance, and balance affects it. They work together as a team, and that is tempo. So what is tempo? I simply refer to that as a measurement of time. You can have fast tempo, you can have slow tempo, and both of those could be good. When looking at the best players in the world, when we talk about time, it typically takes those players 3 times longer to make a backswing than they do a through swing. For example, and I'm just going to use big round numbers, math, if it takes 3 seconds to make the club go back, it should take 1 second before that club hits the golf ball. That is a good balanced tempo. Now, when we talk about shorter shots, when we talk about chips, pitches, putts, it becomes more of a 2-to-1 ratio. So good tempo can positively affect balance, and good balance can positively affect tempo. Now, I have a whole bunch of drills in my tool bag to help students with tempo. Let's go over one today. If you want me to film an entire full-length video on tempo and drills, comment below and let me know. I'm definitely willing to do that because I have a lot that I think can help you. But this one that I'm going to talk about here is really a student favorite. And what I mean by that, a lot of people find success with this that really are struggling with their tempo. It is called the 1-2-3 cadence drill. It is a counting drill. You might have heard of this before. So I get my students in their good balance setup. And when we are working on this stuff, I am 100% making sure they are balanced at address. Going back to concept number 1, because again, and I'll keep stressing this, if you're not balanced at address, this is not going to work. So if you've tried this drill already before and you haven't had success with it, maybe concept 1, your setup wasn't as good as it could be. So I get them into their setup, good balance setup. As soon as the club comes off the ball, they count 1. So they go 1. Once the club gets to the top, that's 2. 1, 2. When you transition down, that's 3. 1, 2, 3. And the more you do that, the better you get. And as I'm doing this with students, I'm also measuring their tempo. And if you have access to anything that measures tempo, I would encourage you to use it while you're on the range, while you're doing these drills. I always say, what you can measure, you can change. You need to create some baselines and awareness. I use it all the time with my students when I'm working on tempo. I encourage you as well. So now that you've mastered your balanced address position and you have tempo perfected to a T, let's get to the third concept, because this concept could be the most important overall, because it'll always give you a measuring tool or a device internally to feel balance, not just at address, but dynamically. And it involves closing your eyes. Go with me on this. So when our eyes are closed, our other senses heighten a little bit more. So if you want to do this exercise right now at home, close your eyes and take 2 steps. all of a sudden you become aware of the ground underneath you. You become aware of the feeling of the foot hitting the ground. Now think about that in a dynamic motion. If my eyes are closed, I can become more aware of where the club is moving through space and time, and also how it's affecting my dynamic balance. You will feel your balance through the golf swing. So what I want you to do, and I want you to do this at home, and I want you to do this 3, 4, 5 minutes every single night. Grab a club, preferably in a room where you're not gonna break anything. Get into your address position, your balanced address position, close your eyes. Now you'll be able to really feel, because when I just did that, I felt like I was just a tiny bit on my heels, and I immediately found balance center from there. Once I'm here, I'm gonna take some swings. What I felt right there was actually really good dynamic balance. Now let me take a swing where I'm a little bit on my toes. Oh yeah, you can feel it. This is a drill I want you to do every day. You'll get really good at it. Your brain and your body will start to self-organize around balance. You can even do it while you hit balls on the range, not in the house, unless you have one of these, but that's, you know, who has one of these? Let me know, comment below. But what you can do is the same thing. Step up to the ball, find balance, eyes are closed, and make a swing. I actually hit that pretty good.